You're good? All right. So I am Fernanda Pedraza-Schmitt. I am the Deputy District Director for the SBA Oklahoma District Office. We do cover the whole state. So we have a team of 8. Today, John Beal was supposed to be here, so I'm coming on his behalf. He's our District Director. He's been pulled to other duties, so you're stuck with me.
I told him it was a better choice anyway, so it's okay.
Well, thank you. So with that, let me talk a little bit about, have any of you heard of SBA before today? Hopefully. All right, good deal. So we are the Small Business Administration. We do get confused with a Small Business Association. So we don't have membership. We're a federal agency that provides resources to folks like yourself, entrepreneurs, people already in business, people looking to get into business. We have all those resources for you at no cost. So this is federal tax dollars at work. It's already been paid for by your taxes, so make sure that you use our resources. So here is a snippet of what the SBA can do. We can help you start, grow, expand, or recover from your business. So the starting piece, obviously, it's self-explanatory. You're looking to start, you're not sure where to go, you have an idea, and you're trying to materialize that into a business, a viable business. So we have resources for that for you to be able to go with a counselor and sit down one-on-one with one of them and walk through the process. This is my idea. What do I need to do to make it a reality? So these folks are experienced. They know where to go to get permits, licenses, all of that. They can guide you through that process at no cost. The growing piece, if you're looking to maybe hire more employees. So you have, currently it's just you and a partner, and you're looking to hire 5 more people, and you're not sure how that process works, if you have the budget for it, what you need to do to get the best candidates for the type of work you're looking for, they can help you with that as well. If you're looking for access to capital to grow, we can help with that as well, and I'll cover that as we go through. The expanding piece, if you are looking to expand your business, you want to open a second location, you want to buy the suite next to you and expand that way, there are loans available for that as well. The recovery piece, we've seen a little bit different these last 2 years with the CARES Act. That was something that came through Congress, and the agency was able to put together loans to provide to you guys, grants to provide to businesses that were suffering due to the COVID-19 pandemic. That was unprecedented. Nobody really saw the magnitude of that was coming, but the SBA stepped up to the plate and made sure to put that the best that we could. The other recovery piece to that is disasters, any other natural disaster, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes. The agency has an Office of Disaster Assistance that handles those loans. In particular, they're low interest loans that will help you recover. So like the instances that happened in Kentucky with all the tornadoes recently, they're able to apply for these loans, be able to get this low interest loan, and be able to rebuild. And some of those loans you're actually able to even use to install a shelter if your home didn't have one. So that gets handled out of the Office of Disaster Assistance. So it's not our district office directly. They're a branch of SBA that handles the recovery piece. But if you ever have any questions on any of that, feel free to call our office and we'll direct you to where you need to go to apply or who can give you more information on these. Any questions so far? All right. So Boots to Business classes. I don't know how many of you may have heard of Boots to Business. We also call it B2B. Similar to what's happening here today, but these happen alongside with some of the Air Force bases that SBA puts together with them. So we have Boots to Business and Reboot. So the Boots to Business piece is basically, as you see here, it gives you an overview of what it takes to start your small business. It's strictly for veterans, for folks like yourself, to get you familiar with the agency or resources, so like we're doing here today. And they also have follow-on courses that you can take, should that be of interest to you. Again, all of these are at no cost to you. The SBA partners with some of the Air Force bases. Before in the past, we've partnered with Altus Air Force Base. We don't have a schedule yet for the Oklahoma office, but one of our coworkers is working on that. Larry Weatherford, he's our vet guy.
I actually have several of your Boots to Business scheduled.
Oh, perfect.
And I'll get that. I got an updated list yesterday too.
Oh, perfect. Yes, I know he was working on that, so I didn't have the update list. Thank you.
Yep. I work with Myron out of University of Texas, Austin. Myron and I work closely together, so I've got a lot of those. There's one today actually in Lawton, today and tomorrow in Lawton.
Okay.
as well. So, but I'll get you guys that list when they're coming closer to your areas as well and go from there too.
Perfect.
We got a lot of them scheduled this year.
Yeah, so if you go to that website, actually, you can see a lot of different resources that are there available for you guys, again, at no cost to you. It also has a link to SBA's learning tool, the Learning Center. It walks you through different scenarios, different objectives, business plan, and it walks you through various things to think about and consider as you're building your business plan if you don't have one. Or if you do have one, to have another way to look at it, right? Sometimes when you sit with somebody and they look at it, they ask you questions that maybe you didn't think about. You're like, oh, I didn't think about that. It might be good to incorporate or think for future as you move along. Think of your business plan as a living document. It doesn't have to stay set. If the pandemic taught any of us anything is you can plan up to a certain point, but then things will change. You'll have to pivot, and you have to be ready to figure out what are those areas that you can change and need to change in order for you to be able to continue being viable. So, and I'll send you some of these links as well if you don't have them, or direct links to our SBA page to include in follow-up email or something. So this is just a little quick graphic to think about the different things that come with, you're a veteran, so you are obviously a lot of these things plus more. A lot of these things already apply to you, and it's just looking at how can you apply those and moving them over to the entrepreneurial space. Because a lot of these, all of these plus more, actually, are really good to have as an entrepreneur. I say it's not for the faint of heart to be an entrepreneur, because you get thrown things all the time. A lot of ways things change. You have one plan and you come into the office and things change. That was me this morning. I'm not an entrepreneur, but you deal with that as you move on through life. So being a veteran, you've dealt with that in bigger scales than you've probably ever imagined, and just applying those into being an entrepreneur is just a way to think about how you fit into the entrepreneurial space. So joining the B2B community, as I mentioned, B2B is goods to business. So there is a link there that you can, and I can send this as well, where you can join the community. You can do this on your phone, smart tablet, and you can join them and be able to create a profile and be in touch with other entrepreneurs, as well as get the latest information that's available to you. Now moving on to the access to capital piece. So if you're looking to get access to capital, the SBA doesn't lend directly. That's usually a misconception, but we do guarantee the loan. So if you come to our office thinking you'll be able to apply for a loan, that's not going to happen. What we can do is provide you information as to which lenders are preferred lenders or SBA approved lenders that you can go to and start there and see about qualifying for an SBA guaranteed loan. So what that guaranteed piece is, it allows the lender to take a little bit more risk. As you know, startups come with a lot of risk, whether you're going to make it or after 2 years, you're going to have to close your doors. So the banks get a little bit hesitant when it comes to lending money for startups. So with this type of program, the SBA guarantees, depending on the type of loan and the amount, 75 up to 90% of the loan, which means if it goes into default and everything was done according to the regulation, the SBA will cover what was not paid back. So it allows the bank a little bit more of that flexibility to be able to provide to you the financing that you need. The first thing on there is loans are for small businesses that are not able to obtain credit elsewhere. What that means is this particular type of loan is if you don't qualify for a regular business loan. So obviously when you go to the bank, they'll look at, do you qualify for the traditional type of business loan? If given your circumstances, you wouldn't necessarily qualify for that. That's where these kind of loans come in, is that credit elsewhere. You won't be able to secure any other type of loan. This type of SBA guaranteed loan comes into play, and then they might be able to qualify you into that to be able to provide you the financing that you need. Now they still look at the 5 C's of credit. As you all know, the 5 C's of credit, they look at your character, make sure that they'll do background checks and all that, make sure you're not in default on any other loans, that type of thing. They'll also look at your capacity to take on more debt. The debt to income ratio, all of those things that they do with any other loan. They'll look also at your capital, collateral, and the conditions of the market. So the conditions of the market, just kind of seeing with your industry. I don't know if where we're at in the room, if people already have a business or thinking about one and what industries. But every industry is different and the market conditions change for every industry. So they'll look at all of those things. But again, the fact that it's a guaranteed loan by the federal government, it's backed by the federal government, then that means that they're able to get it. So programs that it can help you. So we have what we call, and we'll cover that thing on the next slide, 7A, 504. You probably maybe heard of those or maybe not. They're for different. So the different types of loans may help you to either start your business. Normally that would be a 7A loan. Grow your business, export your goods and services, and recover from a disaster. So as I mentioned, there's different products. The recover from a disaster piece comes out of our Office of Disaster Assistance. So that won't come from the lenders that you go see, but they will come from, those are actually from the SBA directly, but the Office of Disaster Assistance that handles. So some of these loans, the maximum you can get is $5 million. You can get multiple loans, but the total amount that you get of SBA guaranteed loans cannot exceed that $5 million. So keep that in mind. Again, if you are looking for smaller loans, and I don't have a slide on that, but if you are looking for smaller loans, what we call micro loans of $50,000 or less, we do have micro lenders that throughout the state. There's about 3 right now that are currently active that do those types of loans, those smaller dollar value loans. So, and I can include that information on my follow-up email to Darren. So here is the loans I was speaking of, the 7A and the SBA Express. I don't have 504 up here, but for the veteran community, these loans are available to all. The difference is, so it's not a separate program necessarily that SBA has had for veterans, but they've incorporated it into the same umbrella. So it's still an SBA 7A, a non-veteran can go apply for an SBA 7A loan. But if you are a veteran, and make sure to provide that, let the lender know, this is the things that they can do. It's a 0 fee for loans up to $125,000, and the 50% fee for loans of $125,000 to $350,000. So that is the difference of being able to take advantage of being applying for these programs and letting them know that you are a veteran. This is the difference between a regular 7A and one specific for veterans. For the SBA Express, there's 0 upfront fee. If you were non-veteran, then there would be a fee attached to that. Being a veteran allows you to not have that 0 upfront fee. So,
what is the SBA Express?
SBA Express is a different type of loan. It's a little bit less complicated in terms of the documentation that they do, but you're still able to use it for growing your business, starting your business. It's just a different category, and the paperwork's a little bit different.
Why would you use one over the other?
It just depends. I'll have to get you a little bit more information on that. I'm not a lender expert, I do apologize. But basically, it has to do with the dollar value. So I'm not sure where the dollar value ends for the SBA Express, but I can tell you it's a little bit less administrative fees, administrative process for the bank to do the SBA Express. Not all banks are SBA Express lenders. So what we do recommend is start with the bank that you currently bank with. Start there and ask them if they're an SBA approved lender. Because you already have a bank account there, you already have a relationship built, you're not trying to start from scratch. So once you start there, then you can ask them about, they'll tell you based on what you're looking for, which category of a loan might be best for you and your situation. So I do apologize, sir, I can't make that very clear right now. My apologies, but I will make sure to follow up an email to Darren and sort of break down that specificity on that SBA Express. So who's able to apply for these types of loans and be able to take advantage of the different fee reductions? So these are all the different categories that apply: veteran, transition assistant program, eligible active duty service members, reservists and the National Guard members, current spouse of any of the above, and some widow spouses. So the some widow spouses piece is if your spouse passed away in the line of duty or due to a disability related to their service. So it has to still tie back to their service. For the above one, current spouse of any of the above. The spouse is looking to get the loan for the business. The veteran does not have to be involved in the business. So I could be the spouse, I'm a non-veteran, so I could be married to a veteran. And if I'm looking to open a business, I could take advantage of the program, and my husband wouldn't have to be involved. So long as I'm still married to the veteran, then it still applies.
Did I read somewhere that you have to be a 51% owner?
Yes.
Okay.
So in order to qualify for the loan, you have to be at least 51% owner, and that comes from that control piece. So they want to make sure that the person that they're lending the money to is the one who's running the business, has ownership and control of that business. Yes, thank you. So that's all I had on the access to capital piece. Were there any questions on that before I move on to contracting?
Would you do a SBA loan to purchase 51% of a business?
To purchase, I think they'll have to look at the whole transaction, making sure it's an arm's length transaction, because essentially sort of like starting your business, but you're buying ownership of another one. So there's a little bit of things that will go into play into that. I'll have to get back to you on that question. Any other questions? All right. So moving on to government contracting. Some of you may be familiar, the federal government is one of the biggest buyers. They need everything, right? Just like whatever your household needs, the federal government needs, plus more. So there are contracts out there for small businesses. Some of them come out as a total small business set aside. Some of them come out as a full and open competition where everybody, large and small businesses, can compete. And there's also set aside categories for the different certifications. The 8A certification, the hub zone, which is historically underutilized business zone. We have the service disabled veteran owned category, as well as the women owned small business and economically disadvantaged women owned small business categories. And I think those are on my next slide. But what I wanted to mention is if you look in SAM, SAM.gov is the website now for looking at federal contracting opportunities. And you do a search in your industry, you can see how the government is procuring that type of work. And then see if you would qualify for some of those certifications. So the government has to procure at least 23% of the federal dollars to small businesses every year. So out of the whole federal budget that they get for contracting, 23% has to go to small business, and that includes all the different set-aside categories that I mentioned. So 23% of billions and billions and billions of dollars, it's a big chunk. So looking at your industry and how the government is buying what you sell will get you started on figuring out which route you need to go and how can you make that happen so that you can also be able to bid on those projects and get those dollars for your business. So average contracting purchases each year is about $400 to $500 billion. And looking at types of government contractors, you always have your prime contractor, so you can always try and bid as a prime, or you can see who the prime is and become part of their team and start getting some capacity, capability, and past performance history as a subcontractor, and then be ready for the next time around. Maybe you'd be able to be a prime contractor for that project. That's one of the questions we get asked a lot is, if I don't have past performance, how can I build that to be able to be a prime? And you do that through being a subcontractor. So how do we assist? So here is the different categories I just mentioned. And for the service disabled veteran owned small business category, there's a little bit of a caveat to that, in that if you're looking to do business with the VA, the Veteran Affairs Administration, you need to go through their certification system and get certified through them. A self-certification is not sufficient for them. A self-certification is sufficient for all other agencies. Every federal agency has their contracting goals. So the federal government as a whole has that 23%, and every federal agency has their own individual for every year. So Tinker Air Force Base has their own percentages that they need to meet for the different categories. Altus Air Force Base has their own. Every department, every agency, every year gets goals, contracting goals. So if you're trying to target a certain agency to sell your product or service to them, get familiar with how they procure it and whether or not they're meeting their goals. Because then you can come in as part of your pitch and say, I've noticed that you're falling short on these meeting these categories, and this is how my business can help you get there. So, so with that, those certifications are all managed through the SBA. Like I said, if you're looking to do business with the VA, you have to go through their certification process for the veteran known and service disabled veteran known.
Won't that change in 2023?
Yes. So they are working on doing that change. Currently, though, you still go through them. After 2023, it comes to the SBA. Now, I don't have any guidance, excuse me, I don't have any guidance yet on how that's going to work, what system we're going to use, who is going to handle that, if it's the field or headquarters, or how any of that's going to work.
But you're still looking forward to it.
Oh, totally. It's like any other change. So yes, that will change. Someone's reading the news and keeping up with them. But unfortunately right now I don't have any more information besides yes, that will change. I think it was supposed to change this year. The pandemic sort of pushed that deadline a little bit further. So now we're looking at 2023. And I think what is changing is instead of the VA handling the certification, is SBA will be handling that certification. So it still won't be a self-certification. It would be handled through the SBA instead of the VA. That I do know. The rest of them right now, they're all handled through SBA. There's different websites for each. The 8A is handled through beta, certify.sba.gov. The hub zone is handled through our GLS system, which is a weird link. So I'll include all these to you. And the women-owned is handled through certify.sba.gov. So through that one, you can also apply for the economically disadvantaged women-owned small business, which is essentially the same information for that WASB certification plus showing economic disadvantage, which they look at your salary and they'll look at making sure a 3-year average is less than 350,000, that your assets are less than 6 million, and that your net profit, or not net profit. Oh, I just blanked out. There's a 750,000 cap on something, and I just blanked out. But I will, apologies. I will make sure to follow up with that. But essentially, the same regulations that apply for the 8A program apply for the women-owned small business program in terms of that economic disadvantage piece. So if you qualify for one in the economic disadvantage, then you meet the criteria for the other, and then just making sure that you meet the rest of the requirements. All of these require that at least 51% ownership is by the qualifying individual. For the women-owned piece and the 8A, it could be an individual or individuals. So you could have 2 or more folks meet all the criteria. The little caveat with the 8A certification is only a 9-year term, once in a lifetime of the business and the individual owning the business. So if you apply and get in, your clock starts ticking for 9 years. After those 9 years are up and you want to start a new business and reapply to the program, that's not going to be allowed and you will be rejected because you already had your 9-year term. Essentially, it's a business development program. So we want to make sure that you are developing your business throughout those 9 years, growing, and then at the end of the 9 years, be able to compete with the rest of the small businesses that are no longer 8A, because your pool goes from total small business set-asides to 8A certification only. It's a lot smaller competitors. So once you leave the program, essentially would like for you to be successful outside of the program. That's the piece on that, which is why it's only a one-time eligibility. So if you apply with multiple people, both of those folks, or 3 or however many, would have utilized their one-time eligibility for the program. So should one decide to leave and start their own business, they will not be able to apply back into the program because they already used that eligibility when they applied through your company. So just keep that in mind. Yes, ma'am.
For the economically disadvantaged, they consider our veteran compensation part of our income, or the calculations for that.
That is a good question.
It's, because every program's different. Some of them, you have to take it in consideration when considering you economically disadvantaged. Some of them do not. It doesn't go on our tax returns. It's not taxable income.
And it's different than your social security.
It's not our social security either.
Right. So that is a good question. I am not sure. I will give you guys my card if you want to email me those questions.